Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, while presenting her union budget speech on the 1st of February, had spoken about a sovereign digital rupee. With that, the ball was in the Reserve Bank of India's court, and now the RBI is ready to roll out a pilot project in partnership with as many as 9 banks for the digital rupee. It is, however, right now going to be for the wholesale market. That's what the RBI is going to be piloting, how the digital rupee settlements are done for the wholesale market before it starts experimenting even in the retail market. What is the digital rupee? Can it really be a game changer? What is it going to mean for you, me, and the way we all do business in the country? That and more is exactly what I'm going to be discussing with Navin Surya, the chairman of Fintech Convergence Council, as well as Shilpa Ahluwalia, partner and head of Fintech at Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas Co. Thank you so much for joining us here. Navin, let me begin with you. Break it down for our viewers. We've been hearing about the digital rupee. The pilot project is beginning with as many as 9 banks. First up, what is a digital rupee?
So in a simpler, very simple way, I think RBI is acting as a startup now, since this show is about startup, for giving you something like a rupee note, but in a digital form. So it will do everything that a rupee note does in a physical environment, but what a rupee note or a physical note cannot do in a digital environment. So for example, if you want to go on an app and pay using a physical note, you can't, right? But with e-rupee, you could do that. And what it also means is that when you do a physical currency transaction at any place, right, the moment you give the money, the settlement is done. There's no need to do settlement. Payment is equal to settlement. And that's exactly what happens with e-rupee coming in a digital environment. The moment, let's say I give Nayantara e-rupee, you receive that money immediately. At the background, even today when you do UPI, the background banks still have to do a process called settlement amongst themselves or interbank. In these cases, with the new models and the e-rupee concept coming in, some of those requirements would go away. It will function very differently. So what a physical rupee does in a physical environment, e-rupee will do it in both physical and digital for everybody. That's what you will see.
So Shilpa, is this digital rupee going to be in my bank account, or is it going to be like the physical currencies in my wallet, my personal wallet? How is it going to work?
So, Nayantara, and this is one of the questions that the RBI has answered. It came up with the concept paper, and it's answered several key questions. And I think one key question is it going to be available for retail users like you and me and Navin, or is it just going to be available for financial institutions and banks for back-end wholesale settlement? And I think the RBI has made it quite clear that they are going to take the plunge and make the e-rupee available for retail users as well. This is something that a lot of central banks have not yet done. There are over 100 central banks across the world that are debating launch of a CBDC, and making it available to the retail segment can be quite challenging. And I think it's quite commendable that the RBI has come up and said, yes, they are going to have a retail-based digital rupee as well. What the RBI has said in terms of how it will work on the retail side is it's likely to be token-based. And I think taking a step back, the two big, policy principles that the RBI has stated when they're looking at rolling out the CBDC is one, minimum disruption. They want minimum disruption to the financial and monetary ecosystem. And the second is they want the e-rupee to be as close to cash as possible. So I think two key takeaways in terms of how it will work for you and me is we're not going to be dealing with the RBI as the interface for the e-rupee. The RBI said they are going to use banks and financial institutions who will effectively act as the interface for consumers when we're dealing with the e-rupee. For retail segment, it's likely to be token-based, which means when I'm making transactions, it's effectively I'm transferring the e-rupee from one user to another, as opposed to an account-based system, which is like how our bank accounts work. And I think the one big piece of clarity that the RBI has given is the digital rupee is not going to be interest bearing, so it won't work like a deposit in a bank account. I will have an account, but my account will be with the bank, and at the back end, my currency will be with the RBI, but it won't be an interest-bearing account, and that's really significant, because if it would have been an interest-bearing account, effectively, my digital rupee is competing with bank deposits, and that can have quite significant implications for the banking system, because in effect, then the RBI is collecting digital deposits, the banking system has cash deposits. So what does that mean? So that's, I think it's quite clear that the RBI it's going to be a non-interest bearing, token-based, retail-based currency.
So that could also mean no buy now, pay later kind of schemes, no EMI related schemes, zero EMI related schemes. I'll get to that in just a bit. But Navin, a very pertinent point that Shilpa just made, that it seems as if it's going to be tokens, right? Coins, tokens. We'll wait for the exact terminology that will be used by the Reserve Bank of India. But my question to you, Navin, is, and as a user then, because, it's going to be done in partnership with banks, how will it work? Let's say Navin will go, hypothetically, whichever bank he banks with, ICICI, HDFC, SBI, whatever it is, and say, okay, I want 500 rupees from my account to be converted into the digital rupee. But then how will it work? How will you transact?
Very good question, I think. So two things. One, as a user, I will receive these from any of the financial institutions. As RBI said that they're going to take an indirect approach of a distribution, not a direct approach. Unlike wholesale, which is account-based, by the way, and versus token-based, where it is actually direct RBI handling the account, and the settlements of those will be for banks within those accounts. So as a user, you will receive this in a digital form. By the way, the end user retail e-rupee is also supposed to be for a user who don't even have a bank account, maybe just have a wallet account. Or even if they don't have an existing account, they can still receive it as long as they have a currency. And they've already set very clearly that one e-rupee is equal to one physical rupee currently. So that trade-off is very clearly set, or that exchange rate is very clearly set. I think the RBI also talks about the next pilot, which is likely to start again in the next another 30 days or so, which is on our consumer side, the merchant side. So I think they're talking about a payment transaction to be done by the end consumer and the merchant. So let's say first there will be a conversion of a physical currency into a digital e-rupee for an end user. Having received that, they could probably, most likely, while those modalities will come out, but most likely they will have an account or a wallet where they can store it. By the way, all these liabilities, instead of a bank, will directly be in RBI books instead of a bank book. So that's a difference. Currently, your money is actually in an account of a bank, and that has a bilateral, or let's say multi-counterparty risk. So this particular e-rupee or a token will be directly backed or secured by RBI. So it's like a fully guaranteed. It doesn't need let's say some sort of a deposit insurance to speak of that way. So I received this.
But you need another app. But will we need another app, Navin?
Well, that's probably not likely to happen, because all your existing financial services intermediaries who are regulated by RBI will give you these options. I don't think you would need another app. But as I said, these are modalities yet to come out. Having received it, obviously, when you go and pay to a merchant the way you pay physical currency, the way you pay a debit card or credit card, there will be a modality to pay through e-rupee directly to the merchant in a some bit of a similar way. But the difference will be, currently, when you transfer the money to the merchant, as I said, unless UPI, your money to the merchant actually reaches T+1 or 2 days, depending on a type of transaction. Here, the money you would have already received. That means already final settlement, right, the way the currency is transferred. So that entire process will make huge implications for the way the payment and settlement will change to payment is settlement.
But Shilpa, we've heard of the entire controversy around zero MDR. Should it be zero MDR? Should it not be zero MDR? We know the government's views now, and I think that's been made very recently clear once again after a controversy of the fact that the zero levy was going away. But even for the digital rupee, there will be a cost, right? There is always a cost. There's a cost when it comes to settlements. There's a digital cost as well. Who is going to bear that?
That's a good question, Nayantara. And I think, why it's even more relevant is because in order to roll out a CBDC, we actually need 3 massive technology stacks, right? One is the RBI needs a full tech stack to be able to issue an e-currency. You need the wholesale tech stack to enable the sort of back-end interbank settlement. And plus you need the retail tech stack to allow, consumers like you and me to make everyday payments using the digital rupee. So there will be a huge cost of building that tech stack to be able to effectively roll out the CBDC at multiple levels. Now, I think that the India is uniquely positioned because we do have, one of what's viewed as a global best in digital payments infrastructure and architecture, and the RBI has indicated that they would like to make the CBDC and the e-rupee retail segment interoperable with the existing digital payments infrastructure. How that rolls out, we'll have to see how that evolves. But we do have a lot of the existing infrastructure in place, and hopefully the e-rupee, at least at the retail level, can just be made interoperable with what we have already. So yes, there will be a cost involved, and I think like digital payments, ultimately, whether it's the banks or the service providers or the intermediaries who bears that cost, I think will have to be seen. But my sense is, as we see innovation in payment solutions and products, there will be costs associated with those products. So I don't think the entire sort of CBDC tech stack will be cost free. Maybe low value payments, there could be some solutions that where the banks and the financial system has to absorb the cost. But I think we will see cost elements built onto solutions as they evolve.
Can I add to it, Nayantara? Just a couple of additional data points around this. Yeah, so I think, today there is a 4,000 crore cost a year back for managing and just printing the currency. Forget the other indirect costs, which has increased actually last year to 4,900. And if you look at the currency has no MDR. So if you use a physical rupee and go to the retail outlet, and if RBI's view is to use e-rupee as a currency equivalent in a digital form, it is, so while it is controversial, and I'm not saying it as a final view, but then the likely view as they're trying to be closer to currency, there's unlikely to be a MDR, but yeah, there might be some direct, indirect. At the same time, like Shilpa earlier clarified, that there will be no interest. So the way you use your money where there is an MDR, but you also earn interest when you keep it with bank. So it's likely to be in that model based on the principles they are selecting. And it's going to be actually much lesser cost than the physical currency cost over a period of time. That's what it is. So that's another reason they're looking at promoting it a lot more.
Before I let you both go, and this is my final question to both of you, and Shilpa, I'll come to you because you're the lawyer here. Digital Rupee, it's also a smart contract. I know the mistake a lot of people make is when they hear the word blockchain and smart contracts, they just start thinking immediately of Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptos. This is of course very different because A, you've got sovereign banking, it's guaranteed by the Reserve Bank of India. But because it's also a smart contract, there is a view that once the digital rupee is used out and it becomes prominent, it can help in reducing contractual disputes. It'll make payments real time. It'll become easier for SMEs, MSMEs. They may not have to chase as much for payments. Violations of contracts could become less. Is that correct?
So Nayantara, as a lawyer, I have to say outright that disputes never seem to end, no matter what ecosystem we're operating in. There are always new kinds of disputes. And I think the whole sort of, smart contract ecosystem has given rise to its own set of disputes. And effectively, if you look at the blockchain is in effect, you can build smart contracts onto the blockchain. Now, the RBI has indicated that, yes, they are looking at what the underlying tech stack will be for the e-rupee, and it is likely that for some aspect they are using the blockchain. Now, the biggest advantage of the blockchain is just the simplicity in which it's able to record data and record transactions. So in that sense, in terms of verifying transactions or verifying underlying users, doing sort of KYC, AML checks, I think that the blockchain has huge potential to solve for some of the everyday compliance, and in some sense, the disputes that come out of that. But I think using the e-rupee and the CBDC and smart contracts will give rise to its own set of disputes, which are different from the world of cash, but I think there'll definitely be more challenges there, particularly linked, to data. I think that will be one big area where we need a lot of protection, and there is potential for disputes.
Navin, I know she's a lawyer and says that disputes will always happen, but do you think this can at least reduce the number of disputes we have, can it also maybe just help, because everything is going to be in black and white, it's a smart contract, help the courts arrive at faster decision making?
So, like we said, I mean, we don't know about faster decision making in the courts, but definitely there are certain areas that completely go away in the process of using e-rupee, right? Like I said, there is currently a process of payments and then settlement in a lot of places. The word settlement part will completely go away. It will become like a currency transaction. But I do agree with Shilpa, there will be some newer challenges, but let's not forget that this is a completely new area which is likely to disrupt the money the way we have been experiencing so far. And what all will happen is still evolving. And we should again give a big thanks to our policymakers of the government as well as RBI, because while there are 100 plus banks working on it, there are a handful, about 10 banks who've been able to roll out. And some of have been doing it for many years, but they're still evolving. And at the pace we have come out with this particular concept and a pilot is commendable. It's not easy to redo all the processes and completely in a new scenario and a new processes. So yes, there will be some newer challenges, but the reality is that this is looking to solve a lot of problems. It may cause some bit of a newer challenges, but I think the technology has enough depth. And while we are yet to see that which all component of a technology, eventually the central bank will end up using, what part of DLT, what part of smart contracts, which ones they will control, which will they will allow the third party distributors to control. So those are details that will evolve, and I think somewhere they have kept room for rolling it out on a pilot basis and across multiple areas. Like they've already mentioned about cross-border, right? Look at the cross-border transaction payment received as UPI for the money, right? And immediately being able to use. So some of these benefits will always outweigh the possible challenges or a possible solutions or issues that we are looking forward. And I think you'll see the way India has been leader in payment, I think even in the currency side, we have an opportunity to become the leader again in all these innovations. So I think I'm personally very excited and looking forward to this new development, and hopefully a lot of new entities just around this new ecosystem.
Yes, we're all on standby to see how exactly Digital Rupee fares. For now, it's a pilot project with 9 banks only for the wholesale market. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us here and also helping our viewers understand why the Digital Rupee is indeed a game changer.
Thank you.
Thank you.